Chronicles of a Play Therapist podcast is raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic, discussing mental health from a play therapy specialization, including trends, treatment approaches and techniques, theory, and the business of psychotherapy practice. Get ready to learn and play with your host, licensed clinical social worker and registered play therapist supervisor, Althea T. Simpson.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Chronicles of a Play Therapist podcast. I am your host, Althea T. Simpson, licensed clinical social worker and registered play therapist supervisor. I am the founder of Brighter Day Therapeutic Solutions, which is a trauma-focused psychotherapy practice in Northern Virginia. And I am also the founder of Unicorn Life Play Therapy, where play therapy is magical. Y'all know I love play therapy, but I wanted to come this week to talk about business of psychotherapy practice that is a part of the Chronicles of a Play Therapist podcast, because I want mental health professionals, particularly those in private practice, to know that you do not have to burn yourself out, and no judgments, right? Because if you want to see 30, 40, 50, 60 clients a week to achieve the income that you want to achieve as a private practice psychotherapist, hey, you like it, I love it, not trying to spit in your soup, but there are a lot of mental health professionals in private psychotherapy practice who are seeing that many clients to earn the type of income that they want. And I found, and I think it's been a blessing for me to switch over to the psychotherapy world from the business world, because I've always looked at how I can maximize my effort to earn the income that I want without burning out. I always wanted to have a practice where I didn't work no more than 3.5 days a week. And I was able to achieve that by diversifying my income. And so you have to think about where you want your income to be. Here's the greatest thing about being a licensed clinical psychotherapist. Whether it's a licensed clinical social worker like myself, you could be a licensed mental health professional, you could be a licensed professional counselor, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and it goes on and on and on, right? Because there are many disciplines within the psychotherapy field. But I always knew that I wanted to diversify my income, because for me, my time is more important to me than money. Of course, you need money to live and do the things that you want, but once you get that clinical license, so this is for anyone who goes through these mental health programs and then decide, you know what, I'm okay with not getting licensed. I never wanted to get licensed. And my supervisor, my internship supervisor, was like, Althea, get your license and you can always go back to macro social work. And I was like, yeah, okay. And it took me 4 years to realize, okay, after I graduated with my master's in social work, and that was organizational leadership. And so that's on the macro side of social work. And the micro side is psychotherapy practice. And so I was working at an agency. I had left my job at the American Psychiatric Association to raise my nephews. I needed a more flexible schedule. So I started working for a community mental health organization. So I was already doing the work and I was already meeting for supervision. So I revisited getting my clinical license. And so once you get that clinical license, you can earn as much or as little income as you want. You are the author of your financial situation, and not saying that other fields are not like that, but I'm talking more specifically about the field of psychotherapy practice, private practice, right? So I had always looked at diversifying my income. I'm a clinical supervisor for social work licensure. I'm a supervisor for to help people become a registered play therapist. I am a consultant. I come from a business background. I have an undergrad in business management. I have an MBA in marketing, and I am completing my PhD in business psychology consulting. So I've always worn a lot of hats. And just because I have a lot of hats doesn't mean I'm working all of those hats at one given time. I have set myself up where I can pull from any bucket of those incomes. I have a lot of different buckets of income that I can pull from. So one of the ways that I decided to, streamline my practice from seeing a lot of clients. I don't think I've ever gone over, since I've been in private practice, over 25 clients a week. But my goal was always to get down to no more than 5 clients at a time and to diversify my income in other ways. So the way that I was able to do that was becoming a clinical supervisor. No matter how people like it or what they have to say about it, you need clinical supervision in order to become a clinical psychotherapist. And that, if you think about that's income, they have to meet with you at least one time a week for 2 years. That's diversifying your income, right? So I'm a clinical supervisor. I am a consultant. So I help intensive in-home, or I used to, because I don't do that anymore, but I used to help intensive in-home mental health practices and therapeutic day treatments in schools. I used to be a clinical consultant for those programs and provide supervision and training for their staff. And so that was another bucket, and it's still a bucket that I can pull from whenever I want to pull from. But right now, my main source of income is not even seeing clients in traditional psychotherapy. My main source of income is from the Play Therapy Training Institute that I started, right? I started a training institute, and it does more than just play therapy training. But my biggest source of income is my Play Therapy Academy. And so I train once or twice a week to a number of people in my academy that are working towards getting their supervision and training to become registered play therapists. So, and I also started a Business Blunders small group coaching program to help mental health professionals who want to start their private practice. And listen, private practice is not just traditional psychotherapy. It's consulting, it's, media, it's supervision, whatever your heart's desire is for your private practice. It doesn't have to be traditional psychotherapy practice. So that's the purpose of Psychotherapy, the Chronicles of a Play Therapist podcast, from a business of psychotherapy lens. We do not have to stay in the therapy room in doing traditional therapy to maximize your income. You can diversify your income. And that's the whole purpose of business of psychotherapy practice that I talk about with my podcast. But that's another bucket of income. I do workshops, right? I do full-day workshops, conferences. I do events like my business mapping and boarding event. I do once a year, every December, to kickstart people starting in December, not waiting until January, to look at how aligned you are with your goals and mapping that out and helping them to bridge the gap. So those are other buckets of income. I can decide tomorrow that, hey, I want to do a workshop on branding. I put it together and I put it out there and people sign up. That's another bucket of income, right? So there are so many ways. Don't limit yourself to psychotherapy practice if that's not all you want to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love traditional psychotherapy. I'm a trauma specialist. I love working with my clients, and people get confused. So I explain this every time I say that. I know that I didn't do anything to bring harm to my clients. So when I say I love working with my clients as a trauma professional, I see how they come into my office and then we do the work. They do more work than I do. I'm just the vehicle to help them get to where they're trying to go in life. But seeing how they leave, right? Seeing how they leave my office, and there's a difference. So that's what I love about working with trauma, seeing them through that whole therapeutic process. But that could become tiring. That could become draining. You can become burnt out. I have a good self-care regimen and I know when to step back, right? It took me a while when I first started my practice in 2011. I used to get burnt out all the time. And I was like, oh, I have to see this client. I have to see that client. But then I realized that I can only help but so many people, and it's not on me to change the whole world or to help the whole world. Everyone is not my client, and I can't take everyone in. If I'm going to be the best, and I'm a dynamic trauma therapist, I'm just telling y'all right now. So if I'm going to be that dynamic trauma therapist, then I have to set boundaries no matter what the story is. And that's a way that I prevent burnout as well. But over the years, I fluctuated up and down, up and down. I do professional development a lot. I invest in myself in conferences, in trainings, business and psychotherapy training. I do consultation when I need consultation. I do professional supervision or professional consultation. So there's a difference between professional consultation and clinical professional consultation. I put all of that in my space and in my business to make sure that I can have a sustainable business, right? And so I am now 9 years in to my private practice, and I'm a full-time practitioner, but I diversified my income. So I don't do a lot of work. Yes, I have a lot of buckets. I have contracts with the Department of Social Services. I have contracts with private corporations. So I am able to pick and choose the buckets that I want income from, right? I have a bucket of income just for when I want to go on vacation. I'm like, okay, well, let me take on a couple of these clients so I can, go on vacation. What do I want to do on vacation? How long do I want to stay? Where I want to go? I calculate all of that into how many clients I need to see from that bucket. And that's the bucket that I use for vacations. So there are so many ways to diversify your income. Don't let your mind be limited. Again, I'm talking to those who want to diversify their income and don't want to see 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 clients a week, right? So off to those who do. And even the information that I'm talking about or giving right now, you take it with a grain of salt because it's not for everybody. And what I'm saying, it may not work for you the way it worked for me, but you take hold what works for you and toss what doesn't work for you. And that's with anything that you do, any advice that you get from anyone. So a couple months ago, went to Maine, just took a drive to Maine, spent 4 days in Maine. And on my way back, I just came up like thinking about victory, right? I went to Maine to reset myself. And on my drive back, I just kept thinking about victory and what that meant for me moving forward in my practice. And so I just want to share that with you is like values. The V is for your values. These are the fundamental beliefs, right? Values are initiatives that cannot be rushed and they must be compatible with the culture of your business. Your values cannot be someone else's values. Right? When you collaborate with other people and connect with other people in business that's doing what you want to do, or you all want to collaborate, your values and their values have to match. They don't have to be perfect, but they still have to match. But you have to know what your fundamental beliefs are in order for this to work. And under values, you need to make yourself a value statement. You can break them down. And I'm going to give you 4 categories of value statements. You have your aspirational values, right? These are values to help you succeed, but your business currently lacks. So this is future oriented. So you have your primary values, which are your fundamental beliefs, right? And you cannot rush them. And I think a lot of people be in a rush because they want to prevent burnout and they want to diversify their income. They don't want to just be a traditional psychotherapist. They want to add on to their practice, but you can't rush it, right? So you can't rush your values. Those are your fundamental beliefs. But then you, like I said, your aspirational values, those are future oriented. So these are values that you're going to need to succeed. You have developed a strategy. You haven't really developed a strategy to them, but you are going to need them in the future, right? But you don't want your aspirational values to dilute your core values. So under your values, you have aspirational values. You have permission to play values. These are values that reflect the minimum behavior and social standards that you require for yourself and that you require for anyone that's connected to your company or your business. So if you have employees, these are values that you want them to reflect behaviorally. And everybody wants integrity. So that really doesn't set you apart. Integrity really doesn't set you apart because everybody wants their employees to have integrity. It can be a value because integrity is one of my values. And the reason I can use integrity as one of my values is because I back it up with action. I don't just say that my company or my business operate in integrity and then don't show it. People can see the integrity of my brand, of my business. So I can use integrity because it's backed up with action. So if you're going to use integrity as a value, just make sure that you have a statement that's going to back that integrity up and not just saying, oh, we operate out of integrity. You have your accidental values. These are typically spontaneous, right? They just happen. Oh, you know what? This fits for my company. But they take hold over time. So you develop these over time, but they're accidental. And you need to distinguish them from your core values because you don't want to confuse your core values with your accidental values because that can have negative consequences for your practice. And so your core values, and I keep saying your core values, these are what guides your company. It guides the actions of your practice. It guides you as the business owner. It guides your employees. It's the backbone of your company's culture. These are your core values. Like I said, one of my core values is integrity because I back it up with my actions and they should never be compromised. Here's what I see common mistakes that private practice psychotherapists make. They compromise their core values and their integrity for convenience and short-term financial gain. And that's a major mistake. You want your core values to reflect who you are as the founder of your practice. And you don't want to operate out of a sense of urgency that compromises your core values. So don't let short-term financial gain compromise your core values. That's just super important. You don't want to do that. So you want to consider, and when you are developing your core values, you want to identify 3 core values for your practice and then craft your value statement. A lot of people don't have value statements for their business. And you want to think about, why do we exist? How do we behave? What's another one? How will I succeed? What is the most important thing to me right now? You know, those are things that you want to think about when you are developing your core values. So that's the V, your values. The I is for integrity, the I in victory. And this is, like I said, I was driving back from Maine and this just kept playing over and over in my head. So integrity, and yes, I was like, wow, it was so clear that I was like, where did I see this? Or where did I learn this from? So I started Googling it and I couldn't find it anywhere. So it was very clear that it was a message for me that I'm sharing with you all. So integrity in the victory is the cornerstone of who you are as a business and who you are as an entrepreneur. Your integrity is your commitment to being moral. Now, I've worked with some janky business professionals. Sometimes, you want to move forward. Sometimes you're in a rush. Sometimes you're operating out of alignment. I think that the reason I've had so many issues over the past 2 years with business professionals that I've hired to help me with my brand or to move my business in a different direction is because I was out of alignment what I was supposed to be doing, right? I try to run from what God has me to do and has for my life because it's not what I want to do. And so every time something goes haywire or don't go the way that it was supposed to go, and I've paid these people thousands of dollars, I have to go back to, it's not what you're supposed to be doing. When are you going to get it? And I actually got a message yesterday because another business trying to, move myself forward and make sure that I continue to secure the bag for my business so I can continue the lifestyle, because I honestly, I only have 5 psychotherapy clients. And so the rest of my income is residual income, is diversify my income. So I have to make sure that I have a presence for that income to continue to come in, and I can stay at that 5 clients. When I first started my practice in 2011, well, I started in 2010 with a professional supervisor or a professional consultant. And then I continued that throughout the years of my private practice. So 9 years in, I've continued that. So really 10, because I started preparation in 2010 and I didn't open my practice until 2011. But I always told, when she asked me what was my goal for my practice, I was like to have multiple streams of income, but only be able to see 5 clients at a time. And I only wanted to work 3 days a week. Right. And I remember this coming from the community mental health organization that I worked for in DC. One of the CEOs, she worked 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I was like, I want to be like her. And so I worked to do that. I'm at 3.5 days, but it took me some time, and I probably will get to 3 days, but I'm cool at 3.5 days. But with that, I know I have to invest in myself, and I know I have to go into uncharted waters. Yes, I have an MBA in marketing, but up until 2 years ago, my focus has been solely on clinical practice and the clinical side of my private practice. And so I knew that I had to hire coaches and consultants to help me because I had been out of the marketing game. But losing thousands of dollars each time that I, connected with someone, that propelled me into really diving back into another passion. Marketing and branding and advertising, that is a passion of mine. That's why I got the degree and went into business. But the clinical side took over, and I kind of let that go. And since, I've been back on my game with it, but I still lost, right? And so these people didn't operate out of integrity. And you have to look at it. Most people don't want to, I take a lot of risk in my business, right? And so I encourage people to do evaluation of what their risk levels are, because I take a lot of risk in my business doesn't mean that that's going to work for you. Right. So you have to think about that and evaluate how much you are willing to risk. But with business, with business comes risk. And so I took some risk that didn't pan out. And every time this happens and I lose thousands of dollars connecting with people that's supposed to help me, I have to look back and say, Althea, is that what you're supposed to been doing? And every time it was no, it was what I wanted and not what I was supposed to do. And so I have to evaluate that. And I'm just coming to my senses again and saying, you know what? This is the part of your business that grows the most. This is your moneymaker. Stay focused on that, because this is what you're supposed to be doing. And all of the other things, that you want to do, don't put as much into it. Let that be your hobby, but stick to what you're supposed to be doing. So sometimes you're going to lose in business, but without taking that risk, how do you know that it's going to fail? And a lot of people take failure, or something not going the way that they expected it to go. They take that as a failure or a weakness, or they let it become paralyzing. Look at the situation, see what worked, what didn't work. You will always find something, or I know at least for me, I always find something to grab hold of out of that debacle that I lost money on and time to move forward and continue to propel myself forward. So, but you're going to run into, so a lot of people are cautious, and you should be, but be cautious, not closed off to asking for help to get you where you want to be, because it requires self-investment. In business, there are risks, and it requires self-investment. But one of the things that I've learned is to not just take people at their word, face value. I need to start looking at your actions, looking at, do you have an imprint that shows me the success that you say that you have to help me to get to where I want to be? Right. So you're going to run into people who don't operate in integrity. But when it comes to you, just because other people are not operating in integrity doesn't mean you skip integrity, because your integrity will make or break your business. Your integrity will make or break your business. You're your brand. You're the cornerstone of your business, and your integrity will make or break your business. So then I talked a little bit about the C, which is competency. This enables your business to grow. You just have to be cautious or careful or vet the programs that you decide to invest in. But even with vetting them, doesn't mean it's going to turn out the way that you expect it to turn out. But what do you learn from it? What do you learn from it? Do not let the missteps paralyze you and keep you in a place of safety where you don't realize, and when I say realize, you're not walking in your dreams and your purpose. Your competency is being consistent with your personal development. That's working on yourself. That's what I had to do all weekend. Work on myself. Because yet another attempt, and I'm not saying that the person didn't operate in integrity, it just didn't turn out the way that I expected it to turn out. There was nothing that panned out of hiring this person, right? So, but like I said, not saying that they didn't operate in integrity. This is actually the first person when something didn't, not the first person, one of few, that when things didn't go right or go the way I expected it just was probably bad timing for what I wanted to do, or I wasn't supposed to be doing it because I have other things on my plate, but it just didn't pan out. So I had to do a lot of personal growth and development and self-evaluation over the weekend, right? But you have to be consistent with that, with your professional growth, your business development. All of these things are going to shape the foundation for your success story. You are the author of your success story. And there are going to be some pains, there are going to be some hiccups, but you cannot stop. I encourage you, I'm not going to say you cannot stop, because you can do what you want to do, but I encourage you not to stop. Take the time that you need to take, lean into what happened, reevaluate it, and develop another plan. Take what worked, or even some of the stuff that semi-worked, and then you build off of that. But I encourage you not to stop, because stopping is going to be worse, make you feel worse than continuing to move on and finally getting to that growth point that you want to get to. So that's competency in the word victory in your private practice, right? T, timing. I just said it. What I just experienced as a failure was bad timing for me, right? So just because I wanted it didn't mean it was the right time. And sometimes it could be risky and it requires you to jump out there. It requires time, it requires effort, it requires money, it requires dedication. It requires a tremendous amount of dedication. But sometimes the timing is just bad. And I think that that's what happened with me, this last endeavor that I jumped into. The timing was bad. But if you wait too late, sometimes the timing could be right and you miss it because of fear. But you have to look at the timing, because that could be the difference between creating your success story or feeling like a failure. And sometimes it's just all wrapped up in one. Your timing so let's say you want to start your practice. I always encourage people who's moving from a full-time job to starting a private practice to start your private practice part-time, because you have to set up so many things. Let your safety net be your income from your full-time job, but that requires you to spend extra time. So if your full-time job is draining you and you ready to leave, you're going to jump into private practice, and you may jump and go all the way to the bottom of the sea if you don't have a barrier, which is planning and preparation. You have to plan and prepare to go into full-time private practice, or you're going to be playing the pink envelope game. And every time I say this to people that I coach or that's in my small group coaching program, is like, what is the pink envelope game? So some of you all may not have experienced this and some of you may have, but it's when you get that, let's say you in private practice, you have a lot of overhead. You get that electric bill when your electric bill comes, and that's for people who still get mail delivered, but it's still the same concept if you keep getting notices in the email. So you get your bill and it's in a white envelope. Then like, oh, I still have time to pay this. Then that next bill, the same bill come and it's in a blue envelope. You're like, oh yeah, it's blue. I still got some time. But when that pink envelope come, you have to pay that bill because it's about to get cut off. And if you don't have electricity, how are you going to see clients? So that's what I mean by the pink envelope game. But right now, a lot of people probably getting that through electronic mail, same concept. So you need to plan. So if you're working a full-time job and it's getting on your nerve, let that fuel you to start the preparation and laying the appropriate foundation for your practice, because you can damage or even destroy your business and your reputation if you're jumping in at the wrong time and it's too fast, or if you miss the boat. And sometimes people miss the boat because of imposter syndrome. I don't belong here. A lot of therapists, we're human. For those who are not mental health professionals or licensed psychotherapists, we are human too. And we have some of the same struggles and mindset struggles that the layperson have. We have some of those same struggles. So if it's impacting your self-esteem, it can trigger imposter syndrome. And that could damage your business and your reputation because you're operating out of a place of fear or rush. So that's the timing. You have to pay attention to the timing. The timing is very important. You have to assess your current situation. Like, I felt like a failure when I expanded my practice I think it was 2014. I expanded my practice into another city in the state of Virginia. I didn't do my research. I was just like, you know what? I'm here. I know the clients are here, but it wasn't until like 2 months later, I was walking to get something to eat. And as I was walking to this restaurant, on both sides of the street, every other building or they were houses in a business district, I guess, they were psychotherapy practices. And I was like, wow, Althea, you totally missed this. But I also took it on a strength that I would be getting a number of referrals from an agency that I left. So my timing was bad. I didn't assess the situation. And my business consultant at that time was like, he wanted to hit me with a bat because I wouldn't listen to him about closing that office. He told me, stop throwing good money after bad money, cut your losses, close that office. And so I went to meet with him 3 weeks later. He was like, did you close the office yet or start the plan? No, he was like, I'm not going to meet with you again until you start doing what I advised you to do. Right? So assessing your current situation is so important. And you have to dedicate the time and be motivated. But you also have to have a clear vision and mission to help shape your practice. So that's the timing. Your timing is everything. If you wait too late, then you miss out. If you jump too early, you can damage your business, your reputation, and miss out as well. So you think about, is the time right for me? Do I have a plan to be prepared for my challenges, for the stressful situations and the setbacks? Because you're going to have setbacks. You cannot allow your setbacks to cripple you, right? To paralyze you from moving forward in your business. Because if you do that, and then your full-time job is taking all of your energy, taking all of your strength, it's still going to do that if you don't continue to move forward in your setbacks. So you're going to need 80% of your time and attention to your business. And that's on top of having a full-time job. Now, some people are blessed where they could just walk in and have unlimited capital to run a business and go through all of that. But you still don't want to go into a private practice, even if you have the money in the bank, to make mistakes. You don't want to lose money needlessly. You still need a plan. So you want to think about, do I have the personal funds to get me off the ground? You should not be putting yourself in a poor financial predicament, and especially not for long periods of time, because starting and growing a private practice is not as simple as I keep seeing all of these memes and posts on Facebook and social media. Take $200. $200 can start you an LLC or S Corp or whatever you want, whatever entity you want to set yourself up as. But it takes more, dear heart, than that $200. That's to get the paperwork going, and that's doing it yourself. It takes more than $200 to start a business. It takes more than $500 to run a business, especially if you have a brick and mortar. You have rent, that's a part of your overhead. You have a lease, which is your rent. You have electric, you have cable. Well, I have cable because I like watching TV during my downtime. So, but even if you're doing an online psychotherapy practice, you still have to have a HIPAA compliant platform, which requires internet. You have to have a electronic health record platform. There are so many things. And you start that business thinking $500 is going to do it. You paying those things, that's about $500 in itself, with all of the things even for that you're going to have to maintain, even with having a online psychotherapy practice. And then, so you have to think about the timing. You really have to think about the timing. So then going into organization, this can make or break you. It can have you feeling like you are on a roller coaster ride. Sometimes I think that the strap that's supposed to hold you down came apart and just tossed me off the roller coaster in my business. Your business is not up and up and up and up. There are going to be some twists and turns. There's going to be some derailment. What's your plan for derailment? As a private practice owner, in person or virtually, you have to be organized because that saves you time and money. Being organized, it also helps you to not feel so overwhelmed with your daily tasks, because running a business, running a private practice is more than just sitting across from a client and helping them through their issues. So you have to invest in giving yourself time to get organized, focusing on your goals, gain perspective on your priorities. And so then we get to the R, which is relationships. Relationships can develop or enhance your skills and your knowledge, but you have to be careful with that. If you're always connected to people who want to pick your brain and then you're not getting anything back, then that's not a good relationship or collaboration, professional relationship or collaboration. The competition doesn't have to be cutthroat. So many therapists think competition is cutthroat, and it's not. People say out there, you give away way too much content. You post way too much content. I don't care. It's knowledge, because you can't deliver it the way I deliver it. Even with therapy, even with training, my lens is different from your lens because of my experiences. So even if we have the same information, or you take everything that I put out there and you try to develop it and turn it into yours, your delivery is not going to be like my delivery. Your audience may not be my audience. So they don't receive the information the same way. So please kick to the curve that I got to keep my enemies closer. That mentality can be more harmful to your business. You create your success story, and that's based on, one, how you operate. Your word is your bond, being, operating out of integrity, operating out of knowledge, being organized. But developing relationships is a part of your victory to success, creating your success story. Your success story has to be your success story and not someone else's. I am uncomfortable a lot of times when I post things that I'm doing on social media, and people have to be careful about that too. Not saying it's me, because I don't have time for all of that chucking and jiving with just putting stuff up for likes or to act like I know something that I don't know. I don't operate outside my knowledge area. I just don't. So anything that I put on social media as far as my business, it's happening or it has happened. And I get uncomfortable when people say, oh, I can't wait to be like you, or I can't wait to get to your level. Don't try to be like me. Don't try to get to my level. Be like you and reach your own level, because what a lot of people don't even know, the pain, the hurt, the financial loss, the crying, the tears, the not wanting to get out of bed, that makes what you see happen. They're just seeing the finished product, but you don't see the backstory of all that I had to go through to make that happen, because I operate out of integrity. And if I say I'm going to do something, and then also I'm an overachiever, and that's connected to my trauma, being psychologically and emotionally abused as a child, being called stupid and dumb, not going to amount to anything and all of that jazz, so I'm an overachiever as well. So I have to be careful with that and step that back some. But your success story is your success story. Don't strive to be like someone else. Don't strive to reach someone else's level. Strive to be like you and reaching your own level. Take in what you see others doing, what you like, and make it yours to create your own success story. But competition doesn't have to be cutthroat. You can collaborate. Developing business relationships and collaboration can help you gain a better understanding of what your business is doing, whether right or wrong. They can actually help you. Other private practice owners can actually help you be better. Now, don't give away all your stuff. Don't give away all your secrets, right? Because you have some janky people that's just going to take your stuff and put their name on it and sell it as theirs. Or they may change a word or two when you did all of and this is something that I will encourage you all not to do. You don't know what a person sacrificed to develop those products, to develop those services that they're offering, that janky people are just taking and putting their name on it. It comes in, you got to pay for research. If you researching, that's your time. Research and development, that costs time and money. Then you got to make the products and to put the products out there. So I encourage people to not be janky. If you like something, ask try to collaborate with that person. Collaboration is good. So don't give all your goodies away and stuff, but be careful about how much of your stuff you put out there, because there are janky people who's going to just take your stuff and put their name on it. And yes, they are mental health professionals. I told you, we're human. They got issues. We got issues, just like the layperson. Doesn't mean that we're not human. So some key considerations for your relationships, though, in relationship building is shared brainstorming. But again, be careful and think about it. Offer something before you ask someone to give you something. So offer to give something before you keep asking for stuff from people. But be careful what you're offering, because you have to have your proprietary information, your intellectual property. That's yours. You came up with it. You developed it. And so the last one, the why in victory, is you. You are the most valuable component of your practice. Your knowledge and how you operate, that's your values, your beliefs, your commitment, will either breathe life into your business or send it to its demise. You must develop self-care, and you have to brand yourself. So those are the victory factors I wanted to talk to you all about today. I don't know. I wasn't planning on going through all of that, but something was just like, just give them this. We are doing all month of December. So we took a break from the clinical content. The clinical content will be coming back. Chronicles of a Play Therapist clinical content will be coming back January. You'll be able to, if you're working on your credentials to become a registered play therapist, or, you need CEs to renew your clinical license. I always use, my primary training is in play therapy for clinical practice, and I renew my license every year with just my play therapy training. So if you need CEs, but I would say if you are doing it for licensure, check with your licensing board. But starting in January, you will be able to listen to the podcast only for the clinical topics, not the business of psychotherapy practice topics, but only the clinical topics. You can listen to the podcast and then take a short quiz and get one non-contact hour play therapy CE. So that'll be coming back. Clinical content will be coming back in January, but we took a break for November and ended season 1 the end of October. Took a break for November. December, we are back with all business of psychotherapy content. And then in January, we'll be back with the clinical content and the business of psychotherapy content. So this is Althea Simpson, your host of Chronicles of a Play Therapist. Thank you all for listening to this informational podcast. And until the next time, thank you for playing. And until the next time, play well.
Chronicles of a Play Therapist is sponsored by Unicorn Life Play Therapy Academy, where play therapy is magical. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe in your favorite podcast app and follow us on YouTube. Chronicles of a Play Therapist is intellectual property of Althea T. Simpson. All rights reserved.